Okay, our discussion today will be focused about differential of arc length. Okay, so let's start. Okay, by definition class, yung curve, di ba, kahapon we have discussed about parametric equations, correct? So, again, yung parametric equations are two pairs of equation having the same parameter. Is that correct? Tama ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay, basically, you have here two pairs of equation, like for example, x and y, and then they are being expressed to a certain variable. In here, we have t, and that certain variable should be common to both the equations. And then we can say that that variable is a parameter, okay, where g and h are both differentiable functions of t. So, yung g and h are just for naming, guys. That it doesn't bear any importance, no, but it's just basically a way to name that for a function of x, for the x equation we have a function of t, which is our parameter. Okay, and then we have several formulas for differential of arc length. What do we mean by arc length? Okay, so for example, we have here a circle. Okay, a circle. And okay, if we have circle here, and then say for example we have here a angle here, so this one right here, that is what we call the arc length, or we denote this as S. Tama ba? We denote that as S. Now, if we will be determining the differential of these arc length, or in other words, the slope of this arc, no, yan, we can use these formulas. Okay, we have here ds is equivalent to square root ng first derivative of x with respect to our parameter t. Square mo yun din yan, then plus yung derivative ng y with respect to our parameter t, then square din yan, then you multiply it to dt. Now take note, guys, that the square root, okay, the dt should be outside the square root, not inside the square root. Okay, then we also have here another form of differential of arctant. We have here ds is equivalent to square root ng dx plus dy square. Okay, pwede din yan. Kasi, actually, this one is derived lang dito. So, di ba, we can factor out 1 over dt there, 1 over dt square. Then, the square root of 1 over dt square is basically equal to 1 over dt. And then, multiply it by dt, then you would get what? Yung matira na lang would be dx square and dy square. Okay? You can also, from here, you can also divide either dx or dy. Okay, from here, you can divide dx or dy square from this equation. So, for example, we will be dividing dx square plus dy square by, let's start with dx square. So, if we will be dividing that by dx square, you would get, okay, 1. Okay, sorry. If we will be dividing dx square from here, we should also be multiplying the sorry, we should also be multiplying the x square. Okay. That why is that? It's because dapat wala tayong it should be equal to 1 lang. If we will be dividing the x squared, we will also be multiplying the x squared in the numerator, so that ito makancel lang yan. Is that correct? Is that correct, guys? And then, the square root of dx squared is simply, what? Dx yun. So, yung dx, malabas yan ito. And then, yun naman yung matira sa ilalim or sa loob ng square root natin. So, that is dx squared, tama ba? Plus dy squared all over dx squared. Is that correct? No? Take note, ha? Naka-parenthesis to. Okay. Naka-parenthesis yan, ha? Sorry. Liktad. So, this one, ito, makancel yan. Mangyari niyan, dx would be equivalent to square root ng 1 plus yung dy over dx square. Okay? So, kaya, another form of arc length, okay, differential of arc length would be square root of 1 plus dy over dx square, then multiply it by dx. Nasa labas ng square root. Okay? So we can also divide it by dy square. So pag dy square yung i-divide nyo, mangyari naman ito na formula. So basically guys, these formulas that I have presented you or as shown in the on your screen are just what they call this one, variations ng mga formulas for differential of arc length. When you say variations, they are almost the same. They are just the same, no? Okay, they are just referring to the differential of arc length, but these are several ways on how you will express that. Okay, parang ganyan. Then we also have here a polar equation na differential of arc length. So we have here ds square root ng r square plus yung first derivative ng radius with respect to theta square. So you just need to memorize this one, no? So this one is particularly helpful if we are dealing with polar equation. When we say polar equation, yung may radius na. Yun. For example, r squared is equivalent to r cosine theta. So ito yung mga tinatawag nating polar equations. Now, for that polar equation, you just need to memorize this as for the differential of arctant, and kindly take note that yung x natin would be r cos theta, and yung y natin would be r sin theta. Saan yan galing, guys? So, you can just write, no? Or you can just draw a right triangle, okay? And then you will just assign theta for any of these two interior angles. Theta is automatic, that is 90 because we are dealing or we are this is a right triangle, so we can say this one is x and this one is y, and then this one is the radius. So kaya if you will be evaluating the cosine of this angle theta, diba, that is adjacent x over the hypotenuse, which is r. So therefore your x would be equivalent to r cosine theta. So ito yun. And then for y r sine theta, that is if you will evaluate sine of the theta, that is opposite, which is y, over the hypotenuse or the radius. So your y would be equivalent to r sine theta by cross multiplying. Tama ba? So you just need to memorize this one, no, for this polar equation na differential of arc length. Okay? So these are the first five variations in differential of arc length formula. Also, we have this curvature denoted as K and the radius of curvature denoted as R. So, I believe na discuss na natin to this previous topics, no? I think that was nung second exam or third exam if I'm not mistaken. So, radius of curvature and curvature. So, in here we'll be recalling, no, the concept of curvature. And because we will be using that one. So, in curvature, the rate of change of theta with respect to s is called the curvature of the curve. Basically, curvature, everyone, is a measure of how curved a curve is. So, how curved a curve is. So, that is curvature. Okay? That is given by this formula, d theta over ds. Yung ds, guys, this is differential arc length. Okay? Differential of arc length. So, ito d theta. Okay? The rate of change of the theta. So if your k daw or your curvature is positive value or greater than 0, then you can say that our curve is a concave upward at a very specific point P. Now, when k or curvature is lesser than 0, then you can say that our curve is expected to be concave downward at that very specific point. Okay? So that is how you determine which whether the curve is a concave upward or concave downward. Okay? So we also have this formula for curvature, that is again yung nakita nyo kanina ito, but you need to evaluate this for its absolute value. Yung absolute value kukunin natin. And then for radius of curvature, that is just the reciprocal ng curvature. Okay, which is this one. Pero most of the time, we will not be using this one kasi yung gagamitin natin would be this one. Ito yung radius of curvature or r, ha. So, if we have a problem, no, na we have a function of y and that is being expressed in terms of x, so you would be needing to solve for the y prime, or that is dy over dx, tama ba? But there are also functions that for example, a function of function x, okay, which is also a function of y. So for example, meron tayong x is equivalent to 5y, yan, plus 3y squared. Yun. As you can see, yung x natin is a function of y. Ito, for example, y is equivalent to 5x plus 3y, 3x squared. So, this y is a function of x. Ito, this x is a function of y. So, meron ganyan, no? For this case, ito, so, gagamitin natin would be x prime. So, ano lang na change is that instead of y prime and y double prime, you will be using x prime and x double prime. And the rest is the same lang. Tama ba? Okay. Take note that x prime is dx over dy and y, sorry, this is x double prime. Okay. Kindly correct na lang this one, ha? This is x double prime. So, this is d squared x over dy squared. Ito, okay to. And then, ito din, okay yan. Okay? So, kasi meron ng mga problems na ganito yung binibigay, no? It is not always like this one, no? Yung y as a function of x. Minsan din may x as a function of y. So, pag ganyan, and you will be using this one. Okay? So, we also have this one. Kapag naman ito, ginagamit to for parametric equations. 'Di ba? Parametric equations, we are dealing with what? Itong first two, ito. Yun yung ginamit natin the previous topics that we have. For this one, ito yung gagamitin natin if we are dealing with parametric equations. Kapag parametric equations, take note, g prime is the derivative of x with respect to our parameter t. And g double prime, yung dx square and dt square. Yung h prime naman would be the derivative of y with respect to our parameter t. At yung h double prime would be the derivative of y with respect to our parameter t. So ganyan, no? This is for parametric equation. So for this one, you just need to memorize the formula. Okay, you just need to memorize the formula. So madali lang man 'to i-memorize, class. Ay, sorry. Bakit di man? Sorry. Madali lang to i-memorize because, okay, tingnan nyo lang. Yung g prime, y prime, dapat i-square yan. Tapos, that is raised to the power of 3 halves. At saka, dito sa baba, ano lang yan, alternating. Parang, ano gani, yung vdu minus udv. Pero, instead na u prime, instead na dv, double prime yan. So, that is the first derivative g, the second derivative of h, minus the second derivative naman ng g, then first derivative of h. So, yan yun, no? Alternating siya. Okay? Bakit to? Wait sa, dali lang. There's something wrong with my pen. Are you still there? Sige daw, can you give me a...
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you may open your, ano, no? You may open your microphone if you have questions. Do not hesitate to ask. Okay. Okay? So, ito, ginagamit to for parametric equations. Ito namang formula na, ito. Ito, ginagamit to for polar equations. Yung kanina, ganito ipakita ko. So, this is for polar equations. So, take note, you just need to memorize the formula, no? R square plus the first derivative of radius, that is being square. Actually, the same lang dito, only that instead of first derivative here, that is the value, okay, the value ng r mismo. And then we have here r squared plus 2r prime squared and product ng r na normal and then the double prime of their r. So just need to memorize the formula. Okay? This is for polar curve or polar equations. Now, if angle alpha is the angle between the radius vector r and the tangent to the curve r is equals to f as a function of theta, at that point r comma theta, this is a polar, ito yung polar form yan, guys. We have radius and theta. So tangent theta is given to be equivalent ng r over the first derivative of that r. Okay? Where r prime would be equivalent to dr over d theta. Okay? So, sige, let's try some examples, no, on how we can apply itong mga formula ng radius of curvature tsaka itong differential of arc length. Basically, itong differential of arc length is in connection lang siya ng curvature kasi we'll be using, you know, as you can see, ito As you can see ito, this is ano, this is for, 'di ba nakita nyo kanina? Ito, differential arc length. Because again, yung curvature is d theta over ds. So this one is the differential of arc length. Okay, sige. Let's try some examples. Let's start with this one. Find the radius of curvature of y equivalent to x cubed at x is equivalent to 1. As you can observe, we have a y function and that is a function of x. So y is equivalent to a function of x. So for this one, a very appropriate na gagamitin natin for the radius of curvature would be equivalent to what? Okay, would be equivalent to this one, no? Ito yung appropriate na gagamitin natin for this one. Kasi we have a y as a function of x. So, mas madali yan, no? So, therefore, we have here 1 plus y prime, then square that, and then we have here 3 halves, and then we have the second derivative of y. So, kukunin lang natin yung mga values, no, ng y prime. Una, yung y prime is equivalent to, so red na lang siguro, no? Mas okay yata yung red. So, y prime is equivalent to, yung first derivative ng x cubed. Okay, everyone, kindly dictate.
3x
3x
That
squared.
is x
3x
squared.
squared.
Okay, then we will be evaluating that one when x is equivalent to 1. And what is y prime when x is equal to 1? That is what? That is
3, sir.
that is 3.
3.
Okay, that is 3. How about for the y double prime? So what is the derivative naman
It's
ng 3x squared?
6x, sir.
That is 6x.
6x.
Then you will be evaluating that one when x is equal to 1. So y double prime is equivalent to
6.
okay, 6.
6.
So therefore, we have now our values there. Therefore, plug in natin dito sa ating working formula. And that is equivalent to 1 plus ang y double prime natin, y prime pala natin would be 3 square, then it's the power of 3 halves, and then we have here the second derivative of y, which is 6. So kindly use your calculator to solve this one. Okay, I'll be carrying out mine. So we have here 1 plus 3 square, and then we have here raised to the power of 3 halves, or that is 1.5 all over 6. So the answer would be 5.27. Kuha nyo ba? Kindly confirm if we are the same answer. 5.27. Hold on guys, ha. So that is 5.27. No yan? 2705. Okay, do we have the same answer, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you have questions with this problem? None?
None so far, sir.
Okay, none so far. Okay, let's continue. Problem number 2. Okay, find the radius of the curvature of the curve x is equivalent to sine t minus 1. Then we have here y is equals to 2 cosine t plus 3 at t is equals to pi over 2. Now, my first question is, what type of equations do we have in our problem? What type of equations do we have in our problem? Everyone? Anyone from the group? What do you think?
Itong polar equation, sir.
Polar equations. If we are dealing with
Parametric.
if we are dealing with polar equation, we should be seeing a r or any theta. So as you can see,
Parametric.
wala tayong ano dyan, no? So this one is a parametric equations. Okay, we have x and y, and then that is being expressed into a common variable t. So basically, our t or our parameter is t. Kuha ba? So we will be using the radius of curvature in the formula for parametric equation. And what was that, guys? What was that? That is
First
okay,
derivative
x
of g
prime.
squared.
Okay, x prime. Okay. Pwede din g, pero dito nakikita nyo. So si x prime na lang gamitin natin, no. So basically x prime. Basically
Squared.
itong x. Okay, ano man gud yan? X is equals to g of t, no. And then we have here y is equivalent to h of t. Or we can just say no, that is x prime and y prime. So para mas madali, no. X prime square, yes, plus
Plus y prime
squared.
squared.
Okay, that's correct. 3 halves. And then yung sa baba would be absolute value ng what?
X prime.
X
Y.
prime. Okay, y double prime minus,
minus G double prime, ay G double, Y,
okay, y
I X
prime,
double prime
okay, x double prime, then y prime, or you
plus
can just,
Y.
ano, no, you can just y prime, x double prime, the same thing. Okay, okay, kahit magbali-bali ito class, okay lang, it's because we will be evaluating it in its absolute value. So kapag mabaliktad nyo to, basta yung arrangement would be kung ang isa is single prime, or mean to say the first derivative, yung isang variable should be the double derivative of that, or the second derivative of that. So nakuha nyo. So regardless kung ma-negative ito or ma-positive, because we are evaluating it in its absolute value, so we will be getting a positive value. Okay? So this is our formula, no? So first we need to evaluate, no, ng mga x prime at saka yung x double prime when t is equivalent to pi over 2. So una, kukunin muna natin yung first derivative of x. Okay, what is the first derivative of x? What is the derivative of sine t?
Cos T.
Okay, cos t. And then you will evaluate when t is equivalent to pi over 2. Okay, give me the value. Now, take note guys, we are dealing with pi. Pag merong pi dyan, automatic dapat naka-radian mode yung calculator natin. Okay? Kapag mga degrees yan, automatic na yan degrees mode. Kasi yung default ng ating calculator is a degrees mode. Okay? Now, kapag pi na, okay, you need to convert it into radian mode. So, you just need to press the mode. That is shift mode. Ito, kailangan natin yung i-press yung radian. So, that is 4. Okay, as you can see here, meron ng capital R na symbol. So, that means we are in the radian mode. So that is cosine of pi over 2. But if you know pi over 2, no, in degrees, that is about 90 degree. So makukuha man din yung formula, yung sagot. So pero if wala man, then you need to convert it into radian mode. So the answer for this one is 0 because cosine of 90 is 0. Okay? Then what is x double prime? What is the derivative of cosine t? Everyone?
Negative sine t.
Negative sine t.
Negative sine t. And you will evaluate when t is pi over 2. Sige daw. Okay, let's evaluate. So that is negative of sine pi over 2. That is equivalent to negative 1. Okay, negative 1. Now, let's derive naman nung y prime. What is the derivative of 2 cosine t?
To cosine t.
That is negative sine
2
t.
sine.
Okay, ito yung y prime would be negative 2 sine t. Tama ba? So you will
Yes po.
evaluate t when that is equivalent to pi over 2. Okay, obviously the same lang dito. So that would become equal to what? Negative 2.
2.
Okay, so how about nung y double prime? So derivative of sine t would be equivalent to what? Cosine t. Now, that is negative 2 cosine of pi over 2. If cosine pi over 2 is 0, 0 times negative 2, that is 0. Therefore, okay, we have now our values, no? So, kindly memorize na lang, no, the values. So, therefore, dito na lang tayo. R would be equivalent to yung y prime, x prime pala, 0. Okay, 0 squared, that is 0. Plus, yung y prime, which is negative 2. So, negative 2 squared, okay? And that is raised to the power of 3 halves. So, yung sa denominator natin, okay, that is x prime, that is 0. Tama ba? And x prime, y prime, the y double prime is 0 also.
0.
Negative. Okay, x double prime, negative 1. Yung y prime, negative 2. So, if we have negative times negative, negative, that is negative 2. Then, since that is absolute, so that is still negative 2. So, therefore, yung sa itaas, okay, denominator natin, so that is 0. Di ko na lang yan ilagay dito, no? So, that is negative 2, okay, square, and then that is, okay, that is also raised to the power of, okay, meron itong 0 dito, 0 plus yan, ganyan, di ba? So that is raised to the power of 1.5 or 3 halves, and then divided by, okay, ito magiging negative yan, oh. So absolute value, kung gusto nyo ilagay sa calculator yung absolute value, nandito yan sa, saan kaya yun? Hindi ko kasi familiar tong ano yung ganito. I am familiar with the canon. Okay. So nga yung absolute value nito.
Kanang hype, sir.
Hype. I forgot. Hype. Hype.
Shift,
Saan gani?
shift, hype, shift, hype, sir.
Hype? Saan nga yung hype? Ay, ito. Tama.
Shift,
Ito,
hype,
meron
sir.
ta. Ito, meron. Absolute.
Yes, sir.
Shift hype. So, yan, no? So, that is negative 2, no? Tapos, you would get 4. Okay? So, the answer for this is 4. Do we have the same answer, guys?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure? You sure? Okay, that is 4. Okay. Do we have questions for this problem? So, this is again parametric equations, ha? Okay. So, can we move forward to the next problem? Okay. Sige. So, problem number 3. Find the radius of the curvature at the given point. X is equivalent to t squared minus 2t, y is equivalent to 1 minus 4t, at t is equivalent to 1. So, expect that most of the time, we will be dealing with parametric equations because yung first topic natin, no, parametric equations. So, radius of curvature for parametric equations din. Kasi yung mga additional lang na input ko kanina, yung mga formulas involved, yung pinakauna, yung y prime, yung x prime, that was part of the last mga earlier exams. Tama ba? Yung second exam, I think. And then, yung polar, additional na yun. Pero, we will be more focusing on the parametric equations. Okay? Now, sige. Let's start with answering this one. Okay? So, this one obviously is a parametric equation. We have two pairs of equation x and y, and that is being expressed both to, and they are being expressed both to a parameter t. So, again, yung formula natin would be equivalent to, okay, x prime square. So, dapat, ito, memorize nyo, ha? Okay, kasi most of the time, you will be using this one, especially for your upcoming exam. So, yung radius of curvature for parametric equation. Okay, then we have here, okay, absolute value ng x prime, y double prime minus x double prime, y prime. Okay? Okay, kukunin muna natin yung x prime. So, what is x prime? That is, eto, what's the derivative of t squared minus 2t?
2 team.
2t minus 2.
Okay.
2t minus
Then,
2.
you evaluate that when t is equivalent to 1.
0.
That is 0. That's correct. How about y double prime? X double prime pala. So, that is
Negative
2 yan. 2 lang yan.
2 lang.
Okay, well. Okay, so when x is equal to 1, when t is equal to 1, that is also 2 lang kasi wala naman tayong variable t dito. Okay, that is the values, or these are the values for x prime and x double prime. How about for y prime?
Negative
Negative
4.
Okay, negative
Negative
4. Okay, when t is equivalent to 1, that is still negative 4. How about for y double prime?
0.
That is
0,
0.
0.
That's correct. So therefore, using this mga values we have, okay, radius would be equivalent to, radius of curvature yan, ha. So x prime would be 0 square plus
square
y
plus
prime would be negative 4
negative 4.
square. Okay, that's correct. Raised to the power of 3 halves. So absolute value ng x prime, which is 0, and then y double prime 0 then, minus, okay, x double prime, that is 2. Okay, and then y prime would be negative 4. Then that is absolute value. Okay, I kindly get your calculator, no? Then we'll be solving this one using our calculator. Therefore, we have here, okay, 0 plus, okay, negative 4 square raised to the power of 3 halves, or 1.5. Okay, and then that is shift hype absolute value 0 minus 2 times negative 4. Okay, then press equal, you would get 8. Do we have the same answer, guys? Do we have the same answer for this one? Sorry. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
that's good, that's good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can we move forward to our next problem? So madali lang, no? If you have memorized the formula for the radius of curvature for parametric equations. Wala namang mahirap dyan, class eh. Just need to memorize and then practice solving. Okay? There's no way for you to master a certain topic but to solve problems as much as you can. So yan yung talaga yung technique, guys. If you are striving to master a certain topic, you need to understand the topic, memorize the formula, then apply by solving problems as many as you can. Okay? So problem number 4, find the radius of curvature at the given point. So we have here y is equivalent to a over 2, and that is multiplied by the quantity of e raised to the power x over a plus e equivalent to x over a. So, ano kaya yung pwede nating magamit dito, class? What do you think? Okay, pakita ko yung mga formulas ha. So, among these formulas, okay, di yun polar curve, automatic. Di din yun parametric equations because isang equation lang yun, tama ba? And then, balik tayo dito. So, that is y, no, as a function of x, and a is a constant value there. So therefore, etong formula na to ang pwede natin magamit. Kuha ba? So balik tayo dun ha. So this one. So as you can see, we have a y as a function of x. Yung a, guys, that is a constant value. That is a constant value, pero wala lang siyang value dito. So expect that for the radius curvature, we will be obtaining an answer, no, na may a siguro, may a na may a na variable. Pero that a is not a variable but a constant, okay? So sige, we will be using this formula for the radius of curvature, that is 1 plus y prime square raised to the power of 3 halves, okay? And then that is divided by the y double prime. Kuha ba? Hello?
Sir.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
So, kukunin natin yung y prime. So, what is the derivative of y prime? What is the derivative of y prime? What is the derivative of y prime? What is the derivative of y, or that is y prime? So, itong a over 2, that is a constant as I've said, no? So, you can just what? You can just set that aside, no? Then, derivative ng x over a using yung exponential natin. So, that is x over a pa rin. Then, derivative ng x over a, that is 1 over a. Is that correct?
Yes po.
Okay, then plus, okay, e raised to the power of x over a pa rin, then multiplied by negative 1 over a.
Negative 1 over a.
Yes, that's correct. Okay? So, etong a, as you can see, common yan, makancel yan. Tama ba? So, we do have here 1 half, no? 1 half. Okay, then we have here e x over a, then minus na e negative x over a. Now, if we will be evaluating y prime when x is equivalent to a, ito yun pasabot niya, no? Yung 0 dito, that is for the values of x. So, therefore, we have here 1 half, then e raised to the power of 0 over a, then 0 over a is 0. Anything raised to the power of 0 is equivalent to what?
1, sir.
Okay, 1.
1.
That's correct. So, we have here negative e raised to the power of negative 0 over a, that is still 1. So, 1 minus 1 is 0. Times 1 half, that is also 0. Okay, for our y prime, that is 0. Now, for our y double prime. So, galing dito, we will be differentiating naman this one. So, again, set aside yung 1 half. And then, the derivative ng e raised to the power of x over a, that is still e raised to the power of e raised to the power of x over a. Then, the derivative ng x over a, that is 1 over a.
1 over a.
Okay? Plus, minus pala, minus. Ito, copy lang, e raised to the power of negative x over a. Then, the derivative ng negative x over a would be negative 1 over a. Okay? Tama ba? So, we can just factor out ng 1 over a, no? So, that is 1 half times 1 over a. And then, we have here e x raised to the power of a. So, negative times negative, magiging positive. Balik tayo sa dati. This negative x over a. Kuha ba? So, basically, para lang tayong bumalik sa dati, no? Tanawa. So, this is, instead of a over 2, nagiging 1 over 2a na siya. 1 over 2a. And then we will evaluate this one when x is 0. Again, that is x over a, no, or 0 over a, that is 0, then plus negative 0 over a, that is still 1. Okay, 1 plus 1, that is equivalent to 1 over 2a times 2. Kasi ito 1 plus 1 kasi. Again, any variable or any constant raised to the power of 0, that is always equal to 1. So ito magiging 2. So 1 half a, then over multiplied by 2, makancel yung 2. Then therefore we have here for a y double prime, that is equivalent to 1 over a. Okay? Kuha ba? Okay. So therefore, balik tayo dito sa ating working equation. R would be equivalent to, okay, 1 plus, yung y prime natin is again 0. Okay, square raised to the power of 3 halves. Okay, raised to the power of 3 halves. Then yung y double prime natin is 1 over a. Now, itong 1 plus 0, that is 1. So 1 raised to the power of 3 halves, that is 1 also. So mangyari nito 1 over a. Yan. So therefore, radius would be equivalent lang sa a. So our radius of curvature is equivalent lang sa a. Okay? Kuha ba guys? Again, this is x, ha?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Kuha? Okay, that's good, no? At least, kuha nyo. So wala muna tayong assignment ngayon, ha? So I'll just be solving problems. So maybe this is the last one. Then tomorrow, partial differentiation naman tayo. Okay? So last problem. Find the radius of the curvature at the given point. So napansin nyo guys, we have here a function of x, x function, which is a function of y. Kuha ba? So instead of using the radius of curvature, that is 1 plus y prime, so instead of y prime, we will be using x prime square. Okay? X prime square. And that is raised to the power of 3 halves all over the second derivative of x. Okay. So therefore, kukunin muna natin yung x prime. So what is our x prime, guys? What is the derivative of a to the power of x squared plus 4? What is the derivative of this one? Hello? Okay, we can set aside 8. Okay, we can set aside 8. I put it. What we can do is that we can put 8 here, and then yung x squared plus 4, we can change position. That would become our numerator, no? Ito. So from here, our x prime would be 8. You bring down negative 1. Tama ba? And then y squared plus 4. Diba ganyan yun? Power rule. Minus 1. Minus 1 ka din. Okay, diba? And then, what is the derivative of y squared plus 4? That is equivalent to 2y. Tama ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay, therefore, our x prime, that is 8, negative 1. So that is basically negative 8. And then we have here y squared plus 4, that is raised to the power of negative 2. Then, okay, basically, this one would be equal to 16 kasi 2 times negative 8, that is negative 16. Then we have y. Now, x prime, when you evaluate, what is the value of y? So, ito, x yan, no? Ito, y yan. So, when y is 0, ano yung value ng x? So, obviously, 16 times 0, magiging 0 yan. Negative 16, 0 squared plus 4, negative 2, and then this is 0. So, any constant or any variable being multiplied by 0 is automatic 0. Now, from here, this is our equation, diba? So, our x double prime would be equivalent to, so as you can see, pwede natin gamitin is product rule. Okay, that is negative 16, set aside natin yan. So, una nating derive would be this one as our u, this one y as our v. So, parang u dv plus v du. So, u dv, okay, let's copy y, no? Y is 4 raised to the power of negative 2, that is our u. Then derivative of v is what? dy over dy, that is equivalent lang sa 1. Okay? Plus, okay, yung y, tapos multiplied by negative 2, derivative ng u natin would be negative 2, y squared plus 4, raised to the power of negative 2 minus 1, or that is 3. Tapos, multiplied pa natin yan by 2y. So, baka nalito kayo guys ha, bakit 1 ang derivative ng y? It's because we're dealing with dx over dy. We will be, diba? dx over dy yan, so yung x prime. So, we are deriving x as with respect to y. Kaya, mangyari nito, that is dy over dy, or just simply 1. Ito yan ha, dy over dy. Okay? So, we will be evaluating this one when y is still 0 pa rin. So, obviously, ito, y 0 times 0, magiging 0 na to class, no? So, ito na lang mas madali. 16 times 0 squared plus 4 raised to the power of negative 2. Okay? Yan, no? So, this is obviously negative 16. Then, we have here 4 raised to the power of negative 2. Okay, anong value nito, guys? Calculator. Negative 16. Sorry, that is negative 16. Times 4 raised to the power of negative 2. That is equivalent to negative 1. Ito, negative 1. Now, we have our value for x prime. So, therefore, no? So, our radius of curvature would be equivalent to what? Okay, 1 plus 0 square raised to the power of 3 halves all over the absolute value of negative 1, which is our x double prime. So, obviously, that is equivalent to, ito, 1 raised to the power of 3 halves, that is 1, divide 1, that is 1 also. So, therefore, our radius of curvature is equivalent lang sa 1. Okay?